Well, I think I'll say that they're mostly foreign authors and foreign ideas. And that's one of the great joys of being at a festival like this, is that you're constantly exposed to different traditions. And maybe just because it's fresh in my mind, because I've just seen him read, one example would be Efe, whose work with humour and with different forms is very different to what we work with in the UK. And it's something that I've been conscious of as I've been writing recently. Well, I think one thing that it certainly does is that it gives you a sense of what people are wanting to write at a given time. And so there was a time of COVID poems, and then there was a time at which COVID was absent entirely from the submissions. There are images that come up again and again that aren't necessarily cliches, but that at the same time I've come to feel are sort of poetic commonplaces. Like, for example, dust being caught in light. Every time that I have a submissions window, at least 5 poems include this poetic image. So I think more than anything, when I'm reading through submissions, it gives me a sense of what the current topics are, what the current poetic cliches are, and perhaps how best to avoid those two things. I think one thing that is very interesting at the moment is that every translation conference that I go to, someone says, as if revealing the truths of the universe, that translation is all thought, that everything is translation. And I don't know if that's really true. I think that it's possible to expand the definition to the point where it makes no sense. And so maybe that's one thing that I'm one current, very current cliche that I'm aware of, especially as it's presented as such an earth-shattering idea. It's funny that you mentioned the modernists, because obviously, even though I have a huge amount of love and respect for the modernists, one thing that is clear about them is that they didn't care about poetry or any other art being a popular art. And there are wonderful things about people who want to do that. But I do care about people enjoying poetry who are not themselves professional academics or poets. And as a result, I do take a lot, especially from popular music, not just in terms of how people perform or in terms of how people think or in terms of the metaphor or image or style or form that people take, but in terms of the, of the outward facing style and the desire for connection rather than cloistering yourself away. So all of that is an interdisciplinary influence, yes. Other ways of saying, how the light loves the land in a land that is not mine, and the letters love to string and mouth themselves into a line. How the future loves to grub its fingers into now. That is how, that is how, that is how. How the answer loves the further question that the answer made, and the constellation loves anonymity of day. How the morning loves to carry its burden of sound. That is how, that is how, that is how. How the blood loves the heat that draws the distance thin, and the kisses love the mouth and all the unkissed skin. How forbiddance loves to wink and secretly allow. That is how, is how, is how, is how.